Most people won't watch this to the end. But you're not most people. Last night, while the world was quiet, while lights were turning off in houses across the city, while exhausted people were ending another ordinary day, a conversation was happening somewhere that would have sounded impossible if you had heard it yourself. Your name wasn't spoken, not directly. Yet somehow, the conversation was about you. About someone exactly like you. Someone with potential they haven't fully seen yet. Someone carrying more than anyone realizes. Someone standing at the edge of a chapter they cannot yet recognize. And the strange part is this. You have felt it. You have felt that subtle tension recently. That feeling that something is shifting beneath the surface even though your circumstances still look the same. You know that feeling, don't you? Looking around your life and wondering why certain opportunities seem to find everyone except you. Watching people move ahead while you're still trying to understand why your own path feels so complicated. Smiling through conversations while privately carrying questions that never seem to leave your mind. Questions about timing. Questions about purpose. Questions about whether anyone truly sees what you're capable of becoming. Pause. Because what happened last night is not really about a billionaire. It is about value. And value is something most people misunderstand. When people hear the word billionaire, they think of money, power, influence, luxury. But the people who build extraordinary things often spend their lives searching for one thing above everything else. Potential, not finished success. Potential, the ability hidden inside someone before the world notices it. The gift that exists before recognition arrives. The future that exists before evidence appears. And maybe that's why this message found you today. Because you've spent so much time focusing on what you haven't achieved that you've forgotten to notice what you've already become. Stay with this for a moment. The world teaches people to measure themselves by results, by titles, by numbers, by accomplishments. Yet the most valuable things about a person often cannot be measured at all. Character cannot be measured. Resilience cannot be measured. Wisdom cannot be measured. The ability to keep going after disappointment cannot be measured. And those qualities often matter more than the achievements everyone else can see. Somewhere tonight, someone with influence is looking for a person they can trust. Someone with vision is looking for a person who sees things differently. Someone with opportunity is looking for a person prepared to receive it. And the remarkable thing is that they are not searching for perfection. They are searching for readiness. Slow down. Because readiness rarely feels dramatic. Most people expect readiness to arrive with confidence. Instead, it often arrives through struggle, through lessons, through mistakes, through seasons where nothing seems to be happening. The strongest people rarely become strong because life was easy. They become strong because they continued moving through uncertainty. And if you've been carrying uncertainty lately, if you've been wondering whether your efforts matter, if you've been questioning whether your future can become something greater than your present, then this next part matters more than it might seem. Because the conversation that changes your life is rarely the one you hear. It's the one happening beyond your awareness. The recommendation you never expected. The opportunity you never saw forming. The connection you never knew existed. The door being prepared long before it opens. And perhaps, somewhere beyond what you can currently see, one of those conversations has already begun. For a long time, you've been carrying something quietly. Not in your hands. In your heart. The weight of feeling overlooked. The weight of wondering whether all your effort actually matters. The weight of watching people celebrate opportunities while you're still waiting for your own chance to arrive. And what makes it difficult is that most people never see this struggle. They see your smile. They see you showing up. They see you handling responsibilities. They see you getting through the day. What they don't see are the conversations you have with yourself when nobody else is around. The moments when you question whether you're moving in the right direction. The moments when you wonder if you've missed something important. The moments when you compare your life to someone else's and immediately feel smaller. You know that feeling, don't you? Opening your phone and seeing another success story. Another achievement. Another person reaching a destination you've been hoping to reach yourself. And for a brief moment, something inside you asks, what am I doing wrong? Pause. That question has stolen peace from countless people. Not because the question is evil. Because it assumes that someone else's timeline should look like yours. Yet life rarely works that way. A seed planted in spring does not compare itself to a tree that has been growing for 20 years. A sunrise does not compete with a sunset. Each has its own timing, its own purpose, its own beauty. And perhaps you've spent so much time looking at what others have that you've forgotten to notice what is quietly developing within you. Because something is developing. Even now, every challenge you've faced has been teaching you something. Every disappointment has revealed something. Every delay has strengthened something. Growth often disguises itself as frustration. Wisdom often disguises itself as waiting. And preparation often disguises itself as being overlooked. Stay with this for a moment. Many of the people we admire today spent years feeling invisible. Years. Not weeks. Not months. Years. Before anyone celebrated them, they were learning lessons nobody applauded. Before anyone noticed their gifts, they were developing those gifts in private. Before anyone opened a door for them, they were becoming the kind of person who could walk through it. That part rarely appears in success stories, but it is often the most important chapter, because recognition usually arrives after preparation, not before it. And that leads to a question most people never stop to ask themselves. What if being overlooked is not proof that you've been forgotten? What if it is evidence that something is still being prepared? What if the reason certain opportunities haven't arrived yet has less to do with rejection and more to do with timing? Because if that's true, then everything you've believed about your waiting season may need to change. And what comes next might reveal why. That question makes many people uncomfortable, because most of us have been taught to believe that if something valuable is meant for us, it should happen quickly. We live in a world obsessed with speed. Faster results. Faster success. Faster recognition. Faster everything. And when life doesn't move at that pace, people often assume something has gone wrong. But what if that belief itself is the problem? Pause. Some of the most important things in existence develop slowly. The tallest trees. The deepest relationships. The strongest foundations. None of them are built overnight. Yet when it comes to our own lives, we often expect immediate evidence that progress is happening. And when we don't see it, doubt begins whispering. Maybe you've heard those whispers. Maybe you've heard them late at night. Maybe you've heard them after another disappointment. Maybe you've heard them after watching someone else receive the opportunity you wanted. The voice says things like, "If I were truly capable, it would have happened already. If people saw my value, I wouldn't still be waiting. If I were meant for more, life would look different by now." Those thoughts feel convincing, but feelings are not always facts. And sometimes the stories we tell ourselves become the very thing holding us back. Slow down, because there is a hidden reality that successful people understand. The world does not reward potential immediately. It rewards prepared potential. That distinction changes everything. A brilliant idea without preparation often disappears. A great opportunity without readiness often becomes overwhelming. A door opened too early can create problems instead of blessings. That is why timing matters. Not because life enjoys making people wait. Because some opportunities require a stronger version of the person receiving them. Let this land. The billionaire in our story isn't really important. What matters is what that billionaire represents. Influence. Access. Opportunity. The ability to recognize value where others cannot see it. And history is full of examples where remarkable people were overlooked for years before someone finally recognized what had been there all along. The talent existed before the recognition. The gift existed before the applause. The value existed before the opportunity. Nothing changed overnight. Visibility changed. And perhaps that's what you've been misunderstanding about your own journey. Maybe your value has never been missing. Maybe it has simply been unseen. Maybe the reason you're still here is not because you're unqualified. Maybe you're standing in the exact season where hidden preparation is taking place. You know that feeling too, don't you? The feeling that something important is happening beneath the surface even though you cannot fully explain it. Because if preparation is happening, then another question appears. Who is preparing you? And what exactly are they preparing you for? What comes next may answer that. For a moment, stop thinking about opportunity. Stop thinking about success. Stop thinking about the conversation that may or may not be happening somewhere beyond your awareness. Instead, think about who you were 1 year ago. Really think about it. The way you handled disappointment. The way you reacted to setbacks. The fears that controlled your decisions. The doubts that seemed impossible to silence. Now look at yourself today. You may not be where you want to be, but are you the same person? Probably not. Pause. That matters more than it seems. Because while you've been focused on external results, something internal has been changing. Life has been teaching you lessons that cannot be learned from books. Patience, discernment, perspective, strength, the ability to keep moving when certainty is nowhere to be found. Those lessons rarely arrive during easy seasons. They emerge during difficult ones. And although those seasons feel uncomfortable, they often create qualities that become priceless later. Stay with this for a moment. There is a fascinating pattern that appears throughout life. People often assume they need a different opportunity to change their future. Yet many times, what changes the future is becoming a different person. The opportunity comes afterward, not before. A stronger mindset creates different decisions. Different decisions create different actions. Different actions create different outcomes. The transformation begins inside long before it becomes visible outside. That is why some delays are not punishments. They are classrooms. And classrooms are not designed to keep you trapped. They are designed to prepare you for what comes next. Slow down. Think about every challenge you've survived. At the time, it felt unfair. At the time, it felt confusing. At the time, it felt like something standing in your way. Yet many of those challenges ended up teaching you something valuable, something you still carry today. Wisdom often arrives disguised as difficulty. Growth often arrives disguised as struggle. And preparation often arrives disguised as waiting. That realization closes one of the biggest misunderstandings people carry. The misunderstanding that nothing is happening during the waiting season. Something is happening. Something important. You are changing. And once a person changes, their relationship with opportunity changes too. They notice different possibilities. They make different choices. They walk through doors they once ignored. They become capable of receiving things that would have overwhelmed an earlier version of themselves. You know that feeling, don't you? Looking back and realizing that something you desperately wanted years ago would have been too much for who you were at the time. Now another question appears. If preparation has been happening all along, if growth has been happening all along, then could it be possible that something beyond your awareness is moving too? Could there be opportunities forming that you haven't seen yet? Could there be conversations taking place that you know nothing about? Because what happened next in one person's story may reveal exactly why that possibility matters. One evening, a young man sat alone in a small apartment. Nothing about that night seemed unusual. The room was quiet. His phone was silent. The future felt uncertain. And if someone had asked him how life was going, he probably would have shrugged and said, "I'm trying. That's all. Just trying. Trying to stay hopeful. Trying to stay focused. Trying to keep moving despite the feeling that everyone else was somehow getting ahead faster." You know that feeling, don't you? Doing your best, while secretly wondering whether your best is enough. The young man had no idea that a conversation was taking place across the city that same night. A business owner was speaking with a friend. They were discussing a project. A problem needed solving. The owner asked a simple question. "Do you know anyone reliable? Not the smartest. Not the most famous. Not the most connected. Reliable." The friend paused, then mentioned the young man's name. That was it. One sentence. One recommendation. One conversation. And everything began changing. Pause. The remarkable part wasn't the opportunity itself. The remarkable part was that the young man didn't know the conversation was happening. While he was questioning his future, doors were quietly beginning to move. While he was wondering whether anyone noticed his efforts, someone was speaking positively about his character. While he was worrying about being overlooked, his reputation was working on his behalf. Life does this more often than people realize. Not always in dramatic ways. Often in quiet ways. A recommendation. A memory. A conversation. A connection. A person mentioning your name in a room you've never entered. Stay with this for a moment. Many opportunities begin long before they become visible. People imagine breakthroughs arriving like lightning. Sudden. Loud. Obvious. Yet many breakthroughs begin as conversations. Invisible conversations. The kind that happen while you're busy doubting yourself. The kind that happen while you're convinced nothing is changing. The kind that happen while life appears completely ordinary. And that realization can be incredibly freeing. Because it means you don't need to see every moving piece for movement to be happening. Slow down. The young man eventually received a phone call. Then a meeting. Then an opportunity. Years later, people looked at his success and called him fortunate. They saw the outcome. They never saw the conversation. They never saw the preparation. They never saw the years spent developing qualities that made someone trust his name enough to recommend it. That is how many opportunities enter a person's life. Quietly. Gradually. Unexpectedly. If this is finding you at the right moment, comment still here below, like this video, and subscribe. There's more coming for you. Because the second question we left open now has an answer. Who is preparing opportunities? Sometimes it's life. Sometimes it's timing. Sometimes it's people you've never met. Think back to the beginning. That quiet room. That feeling of uncertainty. That question you've been carrying for longer than most people know. The question wasn't really whether someone important was talking about you. The deeper question was this. Does what I do matter? Am I being seen? Is any of this leading somewhere meaningful? Those are the questions that stay with people. Not for days, for years. And sometimes they become so familiar that people stop questioning them. They simply accept them as truth. Pause. A person begins to believe they are invisible. Then they start acting as though they are invisible. They stop sharing ideas. They stop taking chances. They stop expecting good things. Not because they lack ability. Because they have accepted a story about themselves. A story that says they do not matter enough. Do not belong enough. Do not have enough value. And over time, that story becomes heavier than any obstacle. Stay with this for a moment. The most powerful discovery in life is not that someone else believes in you. It is discovering that your value existed before anyone recognized it. Before praise. Before opportunity. Before success. Before validation. The value was already there. A diamond remains a diamond even while buried underground. Its worth does not disappear because nobody can see it. Visibility changes. Value does not. Let this land. Many people spend years waiting for proof that they matter. A promotion, a relationship, an achievement, recognition, a breakthrough. Yet those things can only reveal value. They cannot create it. Because value is not granted by the outside world. It is expressed through the outside world. That changes everything. Because suddenly, your future is no longer dependent on someone choosing you. Your future becomes connected to how fully you are willing to become yourself. Slow down. Think about the young man from the story. The conversation changed his life. But why did that conversation happen? Because his character had already spoken before he entered the room. His actions had already spoken. His consistency had already spoken. His integrity had already spoken. The conversation was only an echo. The real work happened long before anyone mentioned his name. And perhaps that is true for you too. Perhaps there are qualities you've been developing that matter more than you realize. Perhaps there are lessons you've learned that will become valuable in ways you cannot yet see. Perhaps there are people observing your character even when you think nobody notices. You know that feeling, don't you? Looking back years later and realizing that what seemed insignificant at the time was quietly preparing something larger. That realization leads to the most important insight of all. Not everyone who notices your value will change your life. But every moment you recognize your own value changes the way you live. And here is the sentence I hope stays with you long after this video ends. The opportunities meant for you are often searching for the person you are becoming, not the person you used to be. Read that again in your heart. Because it explains so much. Why growth matters. Why preparation matters. Why waiting matters. Why becoming matters. The future is not looking for an older version of you. The future is looking for the person these seasons have been creating. And maybe, quietly, steadily, day by day, that person is already arriving. Sometimes it's conversations you'll never hear. And perhaps, somewhere beyond what you can currently see, something similar is already unfolding. Not because you're special in a way nobody else is. Because value has a way of being noticed eventually. Especially when it continues showing up, even when nobody is watching. And what comes next is quieter, but it's the part that stays. Because the greatest conversation isn't the one happening about you. It's the one you've been having with yourself all this time. And perhaps that is where peace finally begins. Not when every question is answered. Not when every opportunity arrives. Not when every dream suddenly becomes reality. Peace begins when you stop measuring your life only by what is visible. Because so much of life happens where eyes cannot see. Roots grow underground. Character grows in private. Wisdom develops through experiences that rarely make headlines. And some of the most important changes happen so gradually that you don't recognize them until years later. Pause. For a long time, you may have believed that the most important conversation was happening somewhere outside of you. In a boardroom, in an office, in a meeting, in a place where influential people decide who receives opportunities and who does not. But after everything we've explored together, perhaps you can see something different. The conversation that mattered most was never happening in those rooms. It was happening within you. The way you spoke to yourself after disappointment. The way you responded when life became difficult. The way you carried yourself during seasons when nobody applauded your effort. The way you continued showing up when there was no guarantee of reward. Those conversations were shaping your future every single day. Stay with this for a moment. Many people spend their entire lives trying to become someone impressive. Yet the people who leave the deepest impact rarely focus on impressing anyone. They focus on becoming trustworthy, kind, wise, consistent, courageous. Those qualities do not always attract immediate attention, but they create something far more valuable. They create a reputation that travels into rooms before you ever enter them. They create opportunities that cannot be manufactured. They create connections built on substance rather than appearance. And over time, those things become powerful. Slow down. There may come a day when an unexpected opportunity appears. A phone call, a recommendation, a new beginning, a door you never imagined opening. And when that moment arrives, it may seem sudden. Others may call it luck. They may call it perfect timing. They may call it a fortunate coincidence. But you will know something they cannot see. You will know that the opportunity was not the beginning of the story. It was the result of countless unseen moments. Moments of growth. Moments of learning. Moments of perseverance. Moments when you continued moving forward despite uncertainty. Those moments were building something. Even when it felt like nothing was happening. Let this land. The billionaire in our story was never really the point. The point was recognition. The point was value. The point was understanding that your worth has never depended on whether powerful people notice you. Because the people who create extraordinary lives eventually learn something simple. Recognition follows value more often than value follows recognition. And once you understand that, everything changes. You stop chasing approval. You stop measuring yourself against everyone else. You stop assuming that delays mean denial. Instead, you begin focusing on who you're becoming. And that focus changes the way you walk through the world. You know that feeling, don't you? The quiet confidence that comes when you no longer need constant proof that you're moving in the right direction. Not certainty. Confidence. The kind that grows slowly. The kind that cannot be borrowed from anyone else. The kind that remains even when circumstances fluctuate. Because it is built from experience. Built from resilience. Built from truth. And perhaps tonight, as this message comes to an end, that is what you are being invited to remember. Not that someone important may be talking about you. Not that opportunity may be approaching. Not even that your future could be different. Those things may all be true. But there is something deeper. Something quieter. Something that stays. You are already becoming the person capable of receiving what once felt beyond reach. Every lesson has contributed to it. Every challenge has contributed to it. Every delay has contributed to it. Even the moments you wished had never happened have added something to the person you are today. And somehow, when you look back one day, you may realize that nothing was wasted. Not the waiting. Not the uncertainty. Not the setbacks. Not the long nights filled with questions. All of it became part of the story. All of it became part of the preparation. All of it became part of the becoming. And somewhere deep inside, beyond the noise, beyond the doubt, beyond the need for immediate answers, something in you already knows that. Before you leave, I want to ask you something. Not about success. Not about money. Not about opportunity. About you. After everything you've been through. After every setback that tried to discourage you. After every season that made you question yourself. After every moment you felt overlooked. You're still here. Think about that. There were days you didn't know how things would work out. Yet somehow, you kept moving. There were moments you wanted answers immediately. Yet somehow, you learned patience. There were situations that could have made you bitter. Yet somehow, part of your heart remained open. That takes strength. More strength than most people realize. And maybe that's why this message found you today. Not because you needed another prediction. Not because you needed another promise. Because you needed a reminder. A reminder that your story is still unfolding. A reminder that your value has never depended on who notices you. A reminder that growth is happening even when progress feels invisible. A reminder that becoming is often more important than arriving. So tonight, release the pressure to have everything figured out. Release the pressure to know every next step. Release the pressure to compare your chapter to someone else's. Your path is your path. Your timing is your timing. Your story is your story. And the person you're becoming is worth the wait. If this message spoke to you, leave the word becoming in the comments. Not for me. For yourself. As a reminder that you're not who you were yesterday, and that the best chapters of your story may still be ahead of you. Until next time, keep growing quietly, keep walking faithfully, keep becoming, and somehow, without forcing it, something in you already knew. And one last thing. This may be the most important part of everything you've heard today. Years from now, you probably won't remember every word from this message. You won't remember every sentence. You won't remember every example. But there is one realization that may stay with you. The people who eventually step into extraordinary opportunities are rarely the people who spent their lives chasing attention. They are often the people who kept showing up when attention was nowhere to be found. Pause. That matters because the world celebrates outcomes. Life rewards preparation. The world notices the arrival. Life develops the person who arrives. And those are not the same thing. Many people want the reward. Few people embrace the process that creates the person capable of carrying it. Yet that process is where transformation lives. Stay with this for a moment. Every challenge you've faced has been asking a question. Not, can you avoid difficulty? Not, can you control every outcome? A different question. Who are you becoming through this? Because circumstances change. Titles change. Bank accounts change. Addresses change. Seasons change. But who you become through those seasons stays with you. That is the treasure hidden inside every experience. The lesson, the wisdom, the strength, the perspective, those things can never be taken away. Slow down. One day, something unexpected may happen. A door may open. An opportunity may appear. A conversation may begin. Someone may recognize a value in you that you spent years overlooking in yourself. And when that moment comes, don't be surprised if it feels strangely familiar. Because deep down, part of you has been preparing for it all along. Not consciously, quietly. One choice at a time. One lesson at a time. One challenge at a time. The future often arrives long after preparation begins. That is why patience is so powerful. Not because patience makes opportunities appear. Because patience allows growth to finish its work. Let this land. If nobody has told you this recently, consider hearing it now. The fact that you're still trying matters. The fact that you're still learning matters. The fact that you're still searching matters. The fact that you're still standing matters. Those things say more about your future than you realize. Because every meaningful story contains chapters that make no sense while you're living them. Only later do the pieces connect. Only later does the purpose become visible. Only later do you understand why certain doors stayed closed and why certain paths disappeared. And when that understanding arrives, it often brings a quiet smile. The kind that comes from realizing that life was building something greater than you could see at the time. So tonight, rest in this thought. You do not need every answer before taking the next step. You do not need every detail before moving forward. You do not need every door to open at once. You only need the courage to continue becoming. Because somewhere ahead, beyond today's questions, beyond today's uncertainty, beyond today's limitations, a future version of you is grateful that you didn't stop here. And somehow, in the silence beneath all your doubts, you may already hear that future calling your name.